While we busily chase the tourist dollar with an image of sun-drenched beaches, the reality is that some of our prime attractions are becoming major health hazards. It's not as if we have just discovered this grim fact. We've known about it for a long time.
Putrid fever pits.
That was the prediction of New South Wales Chief Justice Sir James Martin late last century.
Floatable garbage is washing up on Bondi Beach.
Declared Sydney City Council in the early part of this century. We've always understood it's anything but natural to dump our sewerage in the sea. We've seen evidence of the disastrous results for decades, and yet nothing was done until the water was no longer fit for swimming. Water pours off our oil-smeared roads into stormwater drains and causes even more ocean pollution. But why let it all go to waste? If you live in a city or a big town, you're conditioned to having everything provided. In most major cities, about 1/10 of the ground is built on. Connect just a few roofs to tanks rather than drains, and huge reserves of water can become available. The collection tank could come back into fashion. The water may not be clean enough to drink, but it could be used to clean the car or water the garden.
Can the environment cope with what goes down the drain? A, no, but governments are taking action. B, no, most systems can't cope. C, it'll have to. It's too costly to correct. D, yes, anything can be flushed down the toilets or drain.
5 points for B. Most systems for the disposal of wastewater are hopelessly outdated and cannot cope. The very idea behind them is false.
Sydney's Water Board is spending $350 million of the taxpayers' money to pump the contaminated mix another 3 kilometres out to sea. The odds are it's just a bigger, longer version of what they've always done. New York tried the same. Its tunnel went more than 15 kilometres, but that didn't stop their sewage coming back to shore.
The natural cycle is so simple, it makes our approach to sewage look like bizarre self-destruction. The human body eats food grown on the land and is sustained by the nutrients in that food. The body discharges its waste, which eventually returns to the soil to fertilise it and grow more food. The cycle is unbroken.
When waste is dumped at sea, that natural cycle is broken. Food production and waste disposal become a one-way street. There'll come a time when the soil is too depleted of nutrients to grow anything, and the sea is so polluted fish can't live in it, nor can humanity swim in it. Take this simple formula and multiply it by the millions who live in a modern city, and you've begun the destruction of an element essential to life on this planet, the water. Wash your car this way, and water laden with detergent goes straight down the storm water drain and into the ocean. Bob would be better parking his car on the grass. The phosphates in his detergent might help the lawn to grow. But the best way to wash his car is with ordinary laundry soap and a chamois. Some of the commercial preparations contain heavy-duty detergents, alkalines and acids. Others come in aerosol packs that use CFCs. Phosphates in soap powders and dishwashing liquids join other costly and often dangerous chemicals that promote the growth of algae. It covers rivers and lakes, stifling and destroying all life beneath the surface. Called eutrophication, it's happening at dams and rivers in every state, but nowhere is it worse than in Western Australia, where leached superphosphates have brought prolific growth, cutting off oxygen to water and killing fish.
Biodegradable. It's not a word you find on many packets of soap powder these days. The assumption is that it doesn't get on the supermarket shelf unless it is.
What does biodegradable mean? A. Safe to use in any quantity. B. Highly poisonous. C. Use carefully. D. Will never decompose.
The correct answer is C. Choose biodegradable products in preference to anything else, but use them carefully and with restraint. They may be clean for you, but they can be killers in the environment.
What substances are safe to put down the household sink? A. Coffee and tea leaves. B. Milk. C. Cooking oil. D. Soapy water.
D is correct, but only in recommended amounts. The average householder uses 3 times more detergent than manufacturers' recommendations. No points for any of the others.
Don't ever pour cooking oil down the sink. It is devastating to marine life. See, the oil won't break down, it just sits on top of the water. You do know, don't you, that the best thing you can do is to use less cooking oil? Much better for you. Well, what's left, you simply tip into a jar, go out into the garden, dig a hole away from the plants and bury it. But you won't help the environment if you put it in your garbage. Please don't do that. Milk. Probably less damaging, but some contains up to 50% fat. It should be diluted with water and emptied in the garden. Coffee can be up to 30% oil and should never go down the sink. But coffee and tea leaves are organic. Your garden absolutely loves them. So does your compost heap. So do the potted palms. Well, let's continue our check outside, shall we?
What substances are safe to go down the outside drain? A. Insecticides and pesticides. B. Oil-based products and kerosene. C. Water-based paint only. D. Sump oil and terps. E. Anything. It's all removable. F. None of the above.
The answer is F. None of the above. Don't clean paintbrushes, insecticide or pesticide containers over an outside drain. The drain's almost certainly connected to a sewerage line or stormwater drain. Inevitably, your waste will end up in the sea.
The safest way to dispose of these products is down a deep hole well away from trees. If you don't have a garden, we'll put it in the garbage. But many of our problems can't be solved by disposal. They'll pollute no matter how carefully we deal with them. So the answer has to be our selection of products. Use water-based and not oil-based paints.
Consider using organic alternatives. You can clean thoroughly by using washing soda, borax, ammonia, vinegar, soap and baking soda. There's a host of recipes for effective insecticides and pesticides. You can make them up at home. They won't pollute, they'll be cheaper, probably just as effective, and there's no problem with disposal. 3/4 of oil contamination at sea comes from the land. Much of it is from industry. Nightfall in Sydney regularly brings illegal dumping of highly toxic industrial wastes into stormwater drains. Authorities say they can't police widespread illegal dumping. With the crisis on Sydney's beaches, people were urged to watch for tankers that halted too long by the drain. It's sometimes discouraging to make the effort of sticking by the small sacrifices and the concessions each of us can carry out as individuals when there are wholesale crimes against the environment. But to give up in despair or to do nothing is a personal version of dumping. Householders tipping half a can of old gloss paint down the outside drain won't be prosecuted, but they're equally irresponsible. They're unleashing an environmental nightmare.
To think that science and technology are going to continue to solve all of these problems is simply not warranted. Every new discovery has potential for good and bad. Every new technology has costs as well as benefits.